Hi, my name is Matthew Santoro. I smile way too much. Welcome to the show. Yes, that's right. Today I'm back with another top 10 list. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Matthew, but I am actually here today to make a sort of parody of Matthew Santoro, who I am a very big fan of, but I'm not going to make fun of him or anything like that. I'm just going to try to make a video sort of in his style of making videos. So I'm going to attempt to do a top 10 list, and it is of the top 10 movies that were based on true stories. So yes, I hope you will enjoy my parody, and without further ado, let's get started. Number 10 is Born on the 4th of... This movie is based on the life of Ron Kovics, who was an American patriot who loved his country so much that he even went to war because of it. And so when he comes home from Vietnam, he has seen things he can never unsee, and he has even lost his ability to walk. And ever since that, Ron has actually been an anti-war activist. Ron Kovics says that he was brainwashed by the way that America was working back then. He says, and I quote, "I thought my country could do no wrong." He was born in an age where most people were actually Christian, and most people actually wanted to go to war and die for their country. Number 9 is Mississippi Burning. The movie is based loosely on the case where 3 civil rights workers were killed by what seems to be the KKK. This movie strongly depicts the seriousness in this hate-filled group and what they did. The movie is also based on a lot of different cases happening in the Mississippi area around 1963 to 1974. This movie really does bring the true message of the KKK. Nasty shit. Nasty shit. Number 8 is Kramer versus Kramer. Many people would argue and say that Kramer vs. Kramer wasn't based on a true story. Many people would bring up that it was based on the novel of Avery Corman. But the novel from Avery Corman was loosely based on the movie Hide in Plain Sight. And that movie was actually based on the real cases from the New York lawyer Salvatore R. Macciochi. But you tell me, does this movie belong on the list or not? That is why I also only placed it as number 8. Let's continue. Number 7 is Das Experiment. It's a German movie that clearly shows how the first reality TV shows were made. Back in the 1970s, an experiment was set in to test people's insanity. People were hired to play the prison guards and the prisoners in an actual prison. The experiment was supposed to investigate what actually happened to people when they all of a sudden had power over other people. It was a test to see if every human actually has some evil in them. And I think the experiment talks for itself. Creepy. Really creepy. This sounds like a creepypasta story, doesn't it? Number 6 is The Night Crossing. It's a Disney movie filled with fun and adventures, but the true story isn't funny at all. This movie is based off the true story of 2 German families who lived in Berlin during the period where the Berlin Wall was there. These 2 families decided to escape from the east side of Berlin to the west side of Berlin in an air balloon. And I think we can all agree that it's amazing that it actually worked for them. It's funny when Disney actually chooses something based on a true story. It kind of makes you think a little. Let's continue. Number 5 is Dad. Now, you have probably never heard of this movie, and you will probably never ever hear of it ever again. This is a Danish short film that really, truly depicts the real-life story of one of the most hated men in history. No, not Adolf Hitler. Joseph Fritzl, the terrible man who kept his daughter locked in the basement for 27 years and got 6 children with her. This movie was pretty much banned everywhere, except for an American film convention where it was actually nominated in 2 categories. This movie has received so much criticism because of the direct way that it shows the incest that was happening in the Fritzl household. Trust me, you don't want to see it. Let's continue. Number 4 is 127 Hours. This movie shows the true story of a crazy adventure in the desert of America. The real man, Aaron Ralston, was on one of his crazy adventures when he all of a sudden became stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was stuck in that place for 127 hours before he was rescued. This movie was called Between a Rock and a Hard Place, and it's also the title of Aaron Ralston's autobiography. All this has taught me is that I will never ever go on a crazy adventure in the desert. Ever. Ever. Number 3 is Rabbit Proof Fence. This movie shows the true story of 3 Australian Aborigines who was taken away from their families during the time when the government was trying to clear off the Aboriginal race. This movie has actually been seen by 2 of the sisters and the mom, and they really liked the movie. This movie has also inspired follow-up documentaries describing a more precise story of how this all happened. 2 of the sisters are alive and well today, and they're actually in their 70s. It's a pretty amazing story when you think about it. They crossed 2,400 kilometers in Australia. That is out of this world. Number 2 is The Social Network. This movie showcases the real and true story of how Mark Zuckerberg created the biggest social network site in the world, Facebook. Why did I do air quotes when I said true, because the real-life people who were portrayed in this movie claimed that this movie doesn't show at all how this all happened. The two Winklevoss twins are still outraged to this day over the self-acclaimed fact that Mark stole the idea from them. Mark Zuckerberg got a lot of media attention after the release of this movie. A lot of people were shocked over this movie. Also, including the main actor Jesse Eisenberg, who portrays this young Zuckerberg. A little fun fact that you may not know is that Jesse and Mark didn't meet until a Saturday Night Live sketch, where they both acted quite awkward.
So. Yeah, it's good. I, really liked you on 60 Minutes.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You ever end up, seeing the film, the Social Network?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. Oh, thanks. What did you think?
It was interesting.
Interesting. You know what? I'll take it. Thank you. Great.
Number 1 is I Love You, Philip Morris. This movie showcases the real true event of two men called Philip Morris and Steve Russell. These two had a very unusual love relationship. This movie shows how Steve Russell, in his crazy attempt to be with the love of his life, escapes from prison 4 times. Because the Texas government were really embarrassed about what happened, they sentenced Steve Russell to 144 years in prison, where he is monitored 23 hours a day. The real Philip Morris was released from prison in 2006 and hasn't seen Steve Russell since. He has only written letters to him since the affair took place. Right, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching this Matthew Santoro parody sort of thing. I hope you enjoyed. I really used a lot of time on this video, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.